Thank you for being here. I think by now most of you know who I am. I'm Geraldine, and I curated the festival. And I mean, one thing I've always liked when curating festivals was to have local writers and writers who may not yet be on the circuit of all the big festivals, and who are really part of the community in the larger sense, and who write in very good and interesting books, and may not have been totally or as well discovered as they should be. Now, I have two very different writers with me today. Now, I should say that Maggie Harris is actually quite a well-known poet, but maybe less known for her fiction. And she has written, so far she has written, and today we're going to talk about fiction, and she has written 2 books. She has written the contemporary tales on a cockcrow morning, which is set in Canterbury, and she also has written, and I don't have it with me because I can borrow yours, because I read it. I was sent the e-version of the book, but her first novel, which was Kiscardi Girl, and which is about her past life in Guyana before she moved to England. And Thurai, I mean, slightly different size of a book. I mean, an amazing historical novel, love story, political novel, incredibly rich and full of characters, adventures, quite an amazing novel for a first novel. And I'm delighted that you're both here with us this afternoon. So we've decided that the best thing to give you a sense and an idea is to start with readings, so that you get an idea of those books. And so we're going to start with Truda. She's going to read several passages of the book because there's so many voices. It's such a rich tapestry that we thought it might be a good idea for you to hear some of those various voices. And then I'll ask her a few questions, and then Maggie will read for her 2 books, and we'll have a bit of a discussion, and then obviously some time for questions. So Truda, to you.
Thank you very much. As Geraldine said, there are an awful lot of characters in my book. The main story, really, that winds its way all the way through are 2 of the main characters, Nalini and Arjun. And we meet Nalini. She's a married woman in quite a backwater. She's fairly frustrated because she's a very talented artist. She hasn't got an outlet for her creativity, but she's also quite hard up, so she's renting a room out to a new lodger. And this is their first meeting.
And I don't know, the book is set.
Oh, sorry, yes, it's set in 1950s Ceylon. It's a very interesting time politically. It's very turbulent. There's a lot of turmoil, also with a lot of ethnic tension, and ultimately there are some very violent race riots in 1958, but it covers a span of about 4 years. And the meeting of Nalini and Arjun takes place in 1955, right at the beginning of the book. At last he has arrived. She has been waiting for hours, concealed behind her window. Now she watches as he struggles from the bus at the end of the street. The vehicle, squat and vividly painted, shudders from the motion of its engine as it waits for the man to alight. He pays the driver, takes his leave of the other passengers, and extricates his cases from the pile of hose, sacks, spades, and caged chickens piled inside the door. It is market day, and the peasants are returning home with their spoils. Amid squawks from protesting hens, he pulls his luggage free, spilling some loose change that ricochets into the road. With his view obscured by 2 large cardboard suitcases, he emerges from the bus, feeling carefully for the steps with the toe of his shoe. Having descended, he drops the baggage at his feet and stands a while with his head down, as if trying to catch his breath. With a potent blast of fumes, the bus crawls off like a giant insect, heading into the mountains with its cargo of farm implements, peasants, and livestock. The man watches the bus disappear, gazing into the distance until the horizon is blank and there is nothing more to see. Watching from her window, the woman wonders what he is thinking. She cannot see his face, eclipsed by the wide brim of his Panama hat. He is young. She's already guessed that from his letter. Although not tall, his slenderness lends him height. He wears a tropical white suit and shoes that were shiny when he left the city. He is an exotic sight in this remote place, where men wear the traditional sarong, pleated at the waist and nothing on their feet. Even children in their prim white uniforms walk barefoot to school. With fingertips resting on the glass, she leans forward to get a better look, sees other women at the store across the street looking sideways at the stranger, their eyes darting away when he glances in their direction. Drawing a slip of paper from his pocket, he reads it slowly. Then, with the note clamped between 2 fingers, he heaves up his cases and steps over the coins that lie glittering in the dust. She cannot say why, but the carelessness of that gesture impresses the woman watching from the window. The women at the hardware store follow him with their eyes. He passes them, unaware of their curiosity, his jacket slung over one shoulder, the turn-ups of his trousers flapping as he walks, his arms taut under the weight of the cases. Drawing near to the house, he sets down the cases and looks up. Too late. She has forgotten to withdraw, is caught staring at him. For long seconds they eye each other, wary as cats. Then he smiles, a quick, lightning smile, a boy's face, hopeful, wanting to be liked. She smiles back, feels a pang of sympathy, a desire to protect and comfort. He looks like a lost child. There are many faiths in Ceylon, and spirituality is part of everybody's life, from the highest to the lowest. And it really found its way into politics in a very big way in the 1950s. And here is just a passage which explains how important that is. Ceylon is governed by belief. There are many faiths and even more gods, over 30 million in the case of Hindus. Every deity has a stake in the destiny of this nation. The gods are like family. They sit at your table, they eat your food, they direct your life. A god's disapproval is fatal. It will destroy you. But his favour will make you invincible. In this country, there is no room for scepticism, even amongst those who are educated. As everyone knows, including politicians, it is perilous to ignore the gods. There's a strong theme of magical realism in the book, and the gods interact with the politicians and meddle in the affairs of men. And one politician who is a real historical figure is Mr. Bandaranaike, who you may have heard of. And Mr. Bandaranaike was a very educated man, an Oxford-educated barrister, but he changed his personality completely in order to win votes. And here we meet him before the general election, wondering exactly how he's going to win. And he's visiting the shrine of a very special god called Hunyam. The shrine begins to fill again. Pilgrims drifting in at random like dead leaves, collecting in a courtyard. The monk resumes his sweeping, although every so often he pauses and looks towards the road as if he's expecting someone. A car pulls up, an official-looking limousine with a driver. It is not what the monk was expecting, but he stops sweeping, waiting to see who will get out. He has a strong feeling of anticipation, as if he is bound in some way to the occupant of the car. The driver walks round to the passenger side and opens the door. A man gets out. He is in his 40s, well-groomed with neat, wire-rimmed glasses. He looks like a lawyer, although instead of a business suit, he wears a traditional white sarong, albeit one of superior fabric. The man hesitates before entering the shrine. He is composing himself, trying to empty his mind of images that jostle for attention. Faces, voices, endless meetings. A few months ago, victory was only an aspiration, incalculable and remote. Now it is close, but not yet within his grasp. He knows this feeling, has learned not to trust it. Success has eluded him before. So the politician, Mr. Solomon West Ridgway Dias Bandranaka, more commonly known as SWRD Bandranaka, has decided to petition Huniam for help. As Mr. Bandranaka climbs the steps to the shrine, his sarong chafes his legs. It is the national costume of his country, particularly of the lower class Sinhalese, who he's hoping to woo, but he's unused to it, and it makes him feel uncomfortable. Like many of his peers, Mr. Bandranaka has studied abroad, gaining a degree at Oxford University before qualifying as a barrister. If he is honest, he feels more at home in the stiff, starched collars of Western dress, the trousers and jackets. Deprived of his suit, he feels exposed with just a length of cloth to cover his bare legs. It is a primitive dress, despised by most of his Western-educated contemporaries. But to prove that he is a man of the people, he must wear it. The cloth shifts at his waist. He hopes that he's tied it properly, and it will not come undone. To be subjected to such humiliation would be worse than death for a man in his position. He approaches a man selling votive lamps. Searching for coins, Mr. Bandranaka reaches for his pocket, only it is not there. How do these people carry their money? And one final reading, which is Huniam, who is the god that Mr. Bandranaka is coming to visit. And Huniam was originally a demon and a patron of sorcerers. But in the 1940s, his shrine was discovered by a Buddhist monk who did a fantastic job of PR on Huniam, and quite soon Huniam found himself being promoted to divine status. He retained the characteristics of a demon, particularly the fangs and the mad hair, and a girdle of living snakes. So here we meet Huniam. The god shuffles about on his pedestal until he is comfortable. He relishes a new audience just as he used to relish human flesh. Of course, these days he is vegetarian. Well, almost. It's obligatory for gods, and even he has to admit that it is good sense. It would be bad manners, not to say bad business, to devour one's worshippers. Huniam runs his tongue around his mouth, moistening his scarlet lips, then licking his tusks. They are as sharp as ever, honed to a fine point. But nowadays, deprived of human bones, he has to use a file. It is a small vanity and a jealously guarded secret. Only his friends the snakes know, but if they become a little loose-tongued from time to time, no harm is done. No one with any sense waits around to listen to a snake. Huniam casts an appraising eye over Mr. Bandranaka, assessing this new supplicant much as he used to weigh up human prey. Prime of life, good brain, reasonably fit, plenty of energy. It would take considerable effort to wear this one down.
Thank you very much. I mean,